One thing that everyone has to get used to is you always use your right hand for everything. If you pay like I mentioned earlier, you hand the on-coat driver the money, you'll want to use your right hand. If you pay him with your left hand, that's offensive. And I mean, I've done it before because I forgot, because I was a foreigner, and they're not gonna like freak out, but it's just culturally acceptable. When you receive something or give something, you'll use your right hand, because you use your left hand in the bathroom. The Indonesian doesn't have, well, they have it, but they don't use toilet paper. So hopefully this is appropriate for the interview, but you will be using your left hand to wipe. It is what it is. It's not a big deal. It really is not. Once you're there, it's just part of life, and it's not a big deal. But that's why you want to use your right hand. I mean, you're still clean. It's not like you're dirty or anything, but using your right hand is what's polite and accepted for eating, for giving, for receiving, for shaking hands. But I guess Indonesians don't really shake hands. It's kind of like they just kind of stick their hand out and you shake it and then they pull it back. It's really awkward generally. Nodding was something that was weird for me at first. It's really good to get in the habit of. If you want to contact someone, you'll kind of catch their eye and then you'll kind of nod your head and say, if it's a woman, you say like permisi bu. It's like, excuse me, ma'am, or sir, and that way they'll be engaged and they'll listen to what you're going to say. So nodding. One thing I still haven't gotten out of the habit of is if you walk in between two people that are conversing or a group of people, you always you kind of bow down with your hand to the side so that your body doesn't pass through their level of eye contact. So I was like squatting like way down when I passed by people. But I mean, that's kind of like common courtesy, I would think. I mean, I still kind of, if I walk in between two people, I get like self-conscious. I'm like, oh, sorry. A lot of times when you go to someone's house, I always took my shoes off. A lot of times they'll be like, oh, you don't need to. But I think that's generally common courtesy, respectful to take your shoes off when you enter someone's home. As long as the floor is not, like if it's a dirt floor, then obviously not. But like cement or tile or whatever, you'll want to take your shoes off. I mean, like I mentioned, they really do love foreigners. They'll probably assume you're Australian or from Europe just because it's kind of more rare for Americans to be there. But once you tell them you're from the United States, generally they'll be ecstatic. Oh, Obama grew up in Jakarta, supposedly. He went to elementary school there or whatever. And they'll be interested to know what it's like there. They'll assume you're rich. They'll ask for money. There are a lot of beggars in Indonesia, which is sometimes it's very sad. They're missing a limb or they're sick and they're all over the place asking for money. But if you're just friendly to people, smiling is just the biggest thing, I think. But that's something I had to work on as well. But if you just smile at someone, they'll smile back. They're really kind. They'll be interested to talk to you once they know you're approachable. If they think, because they'll assume you're prideful, they'll assume you're minding your own business, you have no interest in them or their life. Once you start to show interest, they'll be pretty excited and they'll open up and ask you all sorts of questions. When you're walking around, everyone's going to be, well, not everyone, a lot of people will just yell at you, not in a mean way. They'll just shout things to you. Everyone's going to be like, hey, mister. They call every white person mister or bule. Bule is like, I guess it means white person or foreigner. It kind of sounds derogatory sometimes, which is annoying. But they'll call you mister or bule and shout something at you in broken English. How are you? Where are you? Things that don't make sense, and you'll just get used to that. But you shout stuff back at them in Indonesian and they'll all laugh and be like astounded. Tips for staying safe. I honestly never felt like I was in very much danger, but you'll always want to be just aware of your surroundings, alert. There are some neighborhoods that you cannot go into because they're kind of more radical. So you'll want to steer clear of those. Going around like on busway, if you have a bag, you'll obviously want to be wearing that on your front. Like if you have a backpack, people wear it on their front. They reverse it so that You know, if it's just behind you, you don't know who's digging through it. Just be just alert and aware of who's around you, of your belongings. You know, keep your stuff in areas where you know you're not going to get swiped or pickpocketed or whatever. But honestly, I never felt like I was in much danger. There is some crime, but it's nothing. I mean, it's nothing more than you'd find anywhere else, so it's not a huge issue. The biggest thing is there, as far as sickness goes, it's called dengue fever, and I think it's from mosquitoes. I mean, you can wear mosquito repellent. You're going to get mosquito bites regardless, but I don't know if there's anything specific you can do to avoid it. It's kind of rare to get. Just make sure you're just eating a well-balanced diet. You're going to have diarrhea. It's impossible not to, just because it's such a difference in diet and lifestyle. I think I only got sick twice. Once I just had a cold, and then once I got food poisoning. So nothing too serious. Wildlife, the main animals you'll see are cats, which I would avoid. Dogs are rare because Muslims cannot touch a dog. I think if they get like a dog's saliva on them, then they have to do some cleansing ritual. There's cockroaches, rats. One thing that's another interesting cultural thing, most of the apartments don't have like a shower head. It's just you have a faucet coming out of the wall with this big plastic bucket, like this big, and then a scooper, like a ladle kind of. And so you fill the bucket up and you just pour the water on yourself, wash, and then you pour the water on yourself to rinse off. And it's actually quite refreshing because it's cold water, you know, just coming out of the spout. I miss the food. I really do. If I could like eat what I ate there and just swap the whole diet for what we eat now, I would do it in an instant. It's so good. I think it's healthy. It's probably not as clean as some of the stuff we eat here, but it's very spicy generally. You don't have to eat spicy things all the time. Some Indonesians actually don't like spicy food. Some of my companions that were from Indonesia preferred not to eat spicy food, but I personally loved it. I liked spicy food before I thought I did. I didn't really know what spicy was in an Indonesian perspective, but I grew to love it once I got there. Pretty much every meal you're going to have rice, white rice with some sort of vegetable, and then some meat. Generally chicken is the most common one. Some fish, beef. Pork's it's very rare because Muslims don't eat pork. It's like a forbidden meat. It's not clean. I know in that area I mentioned, Medan, it's a very Christian area. They're famous for their pork because they sell it on the streets because almost everyone's Christian. But in Java, I think I ate pork like 2 or 3 times. I ate dog. It was very spicy. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good necessarily. I ate horse, chicken feet, king cobra. These aren't things you have to eat. I was kind of just there. I wanted to try everything. They'll actually give you a shot glass of cobra blood, and on the signs at least it says it helps with diabetes, arthritis, boosts your immune system, and I only got sick a couple times, so I actually attribute my health to taking cobra shots twice. I don't know if that's true. I'm not going to say you should or shouldn't do it, but I don't regret it. I'll just say that. But yeah, I love the food. Generally, it's very cheap to eat on the streets. You will want to pick and choose which places you go and don't go to based on whether you believe it's clean or cleaner. Indonesian has amazing fruit. It's stuff I've never even heard of. It's weird. It's stuff you picture coming out of like a Dr. Seuss book. It's got like this weird hair coming off it or spikes and all sorts of colors and shapes, but it's really good. So definitely indulge in the fruit while you're there. Indonesians always eat with their hands, with your right hand, not your left hand. You'll learn like the way you kind of scoop it and then pop it into your mouth. They have it's called sambal. It's kind of like a paste, like a tomato paste consistency, but it's of spices. And they grind it up in what are those things called? It's like the stone bowl with they grind up the chabes or the peppers fresh, probably every day, and it's very good. So as far as food goes, I'm assuming you'll probably love it. Indonesians, they're very friendly. If you're nice to them, they'll be nice to you, especially coming from a different country. They'll really respect that you're making an effort to learn their language, to learn their customs, and just to get to know them as a person. They'll really value someone caring about them, and I think they're very loyal. Once they're your friend, they're going to be your friend, and they'll really care for you. They're generally very hospitable. Once you form a good relationship with them, it's going to last, in my experience. One thing that's kind of confusing and frustrating at times is they're very non-confrontational. They want to be so polite to you. They want to be nice to you, and it's hard for them to openly reject, to openly say, no, I'm not interested. I love Indonesian people, just some of the quirky things that we've mentioned earlier about their culture. You just come to love it. They're very strong on family, which is awesome as well. Islam puts a lot of emphasis on family, just like our religion. So that's one thing that they have in common. When I think of Indonesians, I just kind of think of cheerful and happy and just kind of silly, maybe. It's kind of, I don't want to say immature, but kind of immature in a good way. I don't know, it's weird. It's good though. Indonesian it's the Roman alphabet. There's no symbols nor caricatures like in Chinese or Taiwanese or whatever. So it is quite simple, I believe. I mean, it's hard to learn because it's a foreign language, but I think in comparison, just because of the grammar and the structure, it's a little more simple. But Indonesian is a mixture of several languages, actually. It has Malay. It's actually very similar to Malay, which is spoken in Malaysia. So it has Malay, it has Arabic, Dutch, some Portuguese. They kind of adopt some English words and throw an Indonesian twist on it for certain things, which is funny once you hear them. It's pretty simple, the grammar. It's kind of hard to understand at first, but once you get it, it's really quite simple. There's actually no past and present tense conjugations for verbs. I know I took Spanish a little bit in high school, and there was all that conjugation, and I don't even remember it. But in Indonesian, there's no conjugation for the verbs. You just specify by the words you use. So you say, oh, yesterday this happened. You don't have to conjugate it. I don't know. It's simple. It's really cool. Just a common phrase would be apa kabar. Literally translated, that is what news. It just means how's it going, what's up. It's kind of informal. I remember when I arrived there, we rode this bus to the mall to buy some bags. So we hop on this old rickety bus, and it's crammed full of people, and they're all like shocked that these white kids with ties just hopped on the bus. We all just start saying apa kabar, and we don't know what they say back to us, but they were all laughing because that's such a, like, they could tell we were foreign, because you don't just say apa kabar to someone you just met on the streets. There's more formal ways of introducing yourself and things like that. But it's a fun language to learn, in my opinion.